Tell us about your personal journey into health law. How did it begin? What did you do? Why did you go into health law?
When I graduated from law school, I worked at a law firm in Chicago, and I was very fortunate to do some work for a partner who at that time represented more physician associations than any other lawyer in the country, and it was just very interesting work. And when I decided that I wanted to do something else, I happened to be a graduate of Northwestern University Law School, and there was a position at the American Medical Association, and I was selected for that position. So I have been in health law ever since that time, since 1979.
And how did you become involved with, was it the National Health Lawyers Association at that time?
I was on the academy side.
The academy side. How did you become involved with that?
I was very fortunate that B.J. Anderson and Bernie Hirsch, he was the general counsel and she was the deputy general counsel, encouraged me to participate in the academy activities. So otherwise I would not have really been informed about it, and they encouraged me to go to meetings and to get involved, and that's how I began. I did a lot of work with graduate medical education when I was at the AMA. I was the legal counsel for the LCME, which is the undergraduate medical accrediting body, and the ACGME, which is the accrediting body for residency training programs. And I just began volunteering with different activities, doing table topics, which was something that was kind of an entryway at that time to being involved with the association. And after that, I just gradually became involved with other aspects of the association.
And what does that mean, doing table topics? Presentations and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so on the academy side, we had subject matter discussions which were done at either lunchtime or breakfast time during the time of the annual meeting. And people would be able to gather and talk about a very specific topic that they were interested in. So that's what the table topics were at that time.
And you were there when the Academy merged with the National Health Lawyers Association.
I was. I was actually the last board member to serve from the Academy and then to serve on the merged board, because after that I became president. It was a very exciting time, and we were very fortunate to have the vision of the leaders who were in both associations at that time to recognize that we could be better as one association than as two.
And on the academy side, what were the thoughts before the merger, as you approached the merger? Was there concern, anxiety, or was it just, this is going to be a great thing for us?
Well, naturally, lawyers as a group, I think, are a bit conservative, so everyone was concerned, would we be able to sustain the values and the quality programming that we had had before? But there was a lot of overlap already. Many people belong to both the National Health Lawyers and the Academy. So in the end, when the two cultures merged, it wasn't quite as challenging as some people had concerns about. It was just a great idea, and I think it's eliminated a lot of duplication and allowed us to be even better.
Talk to me about the culture of the Academy before the merger. How would you describe the culture?
Well, I think the main difference, if you were to talk to people, we had a meeting that included families. We had, at that time, we had a kind of a formal dance on the last night of the program, which was eventually eliminated. As a part of trying to give quality educational program, we had developed programs that were called special. It was called CISLIC, but I never can remember the entire acronym. But the CISLICs were another opportunity for people who had similar interests to gather around a common topic and really delve into that topic in depth. And mainly the other thing that we did with those special interest subject matter committees, which eventually evolved into the practice groups, we also began at that time, which was considered very revolutionary, we had webinars and used the internet and made education more accessible to people who couldn't get to meetings. So that was I think those were probably the two things. Just we had our meetings were longer, it was more involved with our family. And we were able to make those changes, and some of the later presidents, shortened the meeting and incorporated in a different way some of the social aspects.
So it was more of a social, or more social than the NHLA, perhaps?
When I say social, I just mean that there were, in addition to the substantive meetings, there was an opportunity for more personal interaction.
And you were the first African-American woman president. That had to be a very special honor.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that I think is really a credit to the association, when I first started attending meetings, there were literally about 5 African-American healthcare lawyers who were attending the annual meetings: Gail Hasbrook, Ed Robinson, Yvonne Bryant, Brent Henry. I mean, I could actually, sort of name the people that I would see at meetings. And now I couldn't possibly begin to name all of the very diverse lawyers that we have in the association. One of the things, not only in the AHLA, but in any organization, if you want to promote diversity, you really have to reflect it in your leadership. And so I think one of the positives about me having been president of the association is that that message was there in a very tangible way, that our association could be inclusive and welcome very diverse individuals into the association.
When you were president, what would you describe? What were the issues? What were the challenges? And what were the accomplishments?
When I was president, fortunately, we were in a fairly secure financial time. We were able to maintain a positive revenue balance. We worked on a strategic plan. One of the things that I'm proud of is that I was the person who appointed Beth Shermer to do the year in review, and that was very, very successful. Also, one of the other activities that we had at that time were the public interest symposiums, where we would focus on a particular area. Those were that was very good. And at that time, we were really developing and refining our public interest mission and trying different avenues to promote public interest. And so I really enjoyed being able to be a part of that.
Tell me about some of the public interest issues that you dealt with.
So in terms of the public interest symposiums, we would take a particular topic, privacy, for example, and get experts from around the country together in a room, really spend a day focusing on that topic, then produce a white paper that we could make available to the general membership. So people would be able to get kind of thought leadership on a particular area. And also, I think because we are lawyers, and part of being a lawyer in the profession is not just to do activities that enhance our professional expertise, but also to be a part of the larger community. So we wanted to always be sure that we had some activities which would also be helpful to our clients and to the public. And in subsequent years, we've had many publications that we've done that were produced at no cost and on various topics that really were helpful to the to our clients and to our members. We've done emergency responsiveness, emergency preparedness, death and dying. I think we also have done that. There have been so many, it's really kind of hard to list them all, but on a variety of topics like that, where we could really get that message out and help people be able to respond and to be able to see what the best practices are.
And strategic plan was an issue that you dealt with, as I understand.
Right. Well, one of the things about an association and about healthcare law, I think most of the times that people are focused on the fact that it's always changing, but even though it's always changing, it's really important to have a direction and a pathway that you're going. So we've always, as an association, tried to make sure that we did have some strategic goals, to make sure that we were not stagnant, that we were responsive to the way healthcare is changing, and that was part of the strategic plan.
And you have promoted, in your time with the association, diversity,
yes,
bringing in different people and different points of view.
Well, To me, I think what's really important is that our association has to be inclusive and diverse in every sense of the word. I mean, sometimes it is more comfortable to have people who are like you and think like you, but I think what really advances the association is to have that diversity of ideas, to include individuals in leadership who have not taken perhaps a traditional path, as some have in terms of working first in the practice groups and doing writing for the publications. If we have individuals who are either from small practices or who have been involved in different aspects of healthcare, all of those voices really make us a stronger and better association, and I've really advocated for that. I've also think it's important for us to have mentorship and to make sure that we are reaching out to new members and being accessible. That's one of the things that I personally have tried to do, is to really encourage people, especially when I talk to young lawyers, to really tell them about the benefits of having the opportunity to interact with leaders in healthcare, with peers in healthcare, and to get out of your office and really know more about the larger community in healthcare, because it makes you a better lawyer, and the people that you meet along the way make you a better person.
And you received the David J. Greenberg Award.
I was very excited and honored to receive the David J. Greenberg Award. There's probably nothing more rewarding than to be recognized by your peers. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing David J. Greenberg personally, but I have a lot of colleagues and friends who did know him. And to be able to be seen as someone who's made a positive contribution to healthcare law and to the association is really personally rewarding. David was a pioneer in the whole area of healthcare law. He was here in Washington, D.C., and there are a lot of my peers who did have the opportunity to know him and work with him, and he really literally gathered people in his home and encouraged them and talked about healthcare law at a time. Now we kind of take it for granted because we're so evolved and sophisticated in terms of healthcare law, but at that time it was considered a relatively new area of the law, and you could literally, when you would go to annual meeting, you could literally see everyone at the meeting. Now our meetings are very large, and you don't always know who is there at the meeting. So David really is to be commended, and there are some other icons who are along with him who really had the vision to recognize and to see how healthcare law was going to become an integral part of the healthcare scene in the United States.
Looking back, what are some of your more memorable, important roles in the association and in healthcare law?
I have always enjoyed the graduate medical education side. Before I joined the board, I was the chair of the Teaching Hospitals Committee, and that was very rewarding. I've also I served as the public interest chair. That was a very personally rewarding. We've talked about some of the activities of the public interest group.
You were involved with the women's group, right? Bringing women into the health law or into the association?
Yes. I've had the opportunity to participate in some of the panels. Some of the leaders like Anthea Daniels, who have really taken, and Lois Cornell have really taken a very prominent role in that advocacy, but I've been pleased to be able to be a part of that and to be on several activities that they've been involved in and promoted. We've been very fortunate in healthcare that there are quite a few very talented women, and a lot of those talented women have taken an interest in the association and been in leadership positions.
You were with the Office of General Counsel with the American Medical Association. What perspective did that give you?
Well, one of the things, and I think some of my colleagues have said, I think historically, particularly on the academy side, many of the lawyers were hospital lawyers first, and having someone who had a physician perspective, because my career has really been more focused on representing physicians either in associations or in medical schools and graduate medical education, I think it helped to give a different perspective, which wasn't always there. And similarly, later on, when the board began to have individuals from the government side. It was the same kind of concept where people were able to work together and kind of appreciate the different perspective. We didn't always agree, but at least it brought people closer together in terms of really being able to get a better understanding of another perspective.
We talked earlier about the culture of the Academy and a little bit about the National Health Law Association, Lawyers Association. How would you describe the culture now of the American Health Lawyers Association?
Well, I think our signature contribution is that we produce quality work. We give an opportunity for young lawyers to develop their skills, and we have really been promoting inclusion. I think those are three areas that I think we really have excelled in. And in terms of the quality of the materials, it is just, I think it's second to none in terms of any resource that a health lawyer can obtain.
How would you describe the milestones in health law?
I think in the early times, the early part of my career, I think people were more focused on kind of the traditional physician-hospital relationships. As hospitals have evolved into health systems and integrated delivery systems, there have been kind of ebbs and flows and transactional aspects of healthcare. It has expanded from being that very narrow, just representing physicians in hospitals. You have employment lawyers in healthcare, you have transactional lawyers in healthcare, IP lawyers in healthcare. It really covers the wide spectrum of any type of discipline, but with a focus on how healthcare impacts us. I mean, healthcare is probably the one aspect of the law that touches everyone. Sooner or later, everyone has some kind of interaction with the healthcare system, and because of that, it is a very it's a unique expectation on the part of the patients and clients who seek healthcare services, because they really hold us as lawyers, I think, to a higher standard just because of the nature of what healthcare is.
You said that if you had a chance to ask you a question, it would be, why has the American Health Lawyers Association been so important in your professional career? Why?
It has been important to me because I think it has made me a better lawyer. The people who I have met along the way have been just phenomenal, both in terms of sharing their knowledge and just the exceptional individuals who are more than health lawyers, but who have many, many other talents. And I just feel privileged that I've been able to be a part of this group and to get to know people who have turned out to be really leaders in our field, and people who are lawyers who are so concerned not just with their own personal professional advancement, but really concerned about others.
And the networking opportunities.
Networking, I think, is a very great benefit as a part of the association. I encourage, when I talk to young lawyers, I always tell them it's great that you're doing a terrific job in your office, but you really need to get out and interact with other lawyers, because it's going to make your perspective broader and stronger in terms of how you look and solve problems. And you may just also decide that you're not going to stay in the same place your entire professional career, and it's nice to know people who are doing other things, and it gives you an opportunity to think about, where's my next opportunity, where would I like to be, what you're doing. You talk with people and you find out how interesting what they're doing is, and that's just you can't really put a value on that, except that it's a great resource, and I really encourage young lawyers to take advantage of that aspect of the association. It's not enough just to go to the meetings. You really want to find out who that person is who's sitting next to you. And
you've been active in reaching out to young lawyers to bring them in.
Yes, I have. I have really enjoyed doing that. Wherever I've worked or when I was president and subsequent to that, I always really try to encourage young lawyers. One of the things that I'm excited that we have returned to doing as an association is really focusing on fully integrating young lawyers or new lawyers into the association and reaching out to them.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the year-end review.
Yes.
That was a big thing, wasn't
Yes.
it? Tell me why that was important and what it was exactly. And that was that your idea?
The year-end review is not my idea, but it is one of the signature contributions of the association at not only the annual meeting but some of the mid-year meetings, in order to give the membership an overview of all of the important topics. We've had Kelly Clark, Jack Schroeder, Beth Shermer, Sydney Wisner, a variety of individuals who've been able to be very effective in capturing the highlights of the year. It's kind of a 2-hour nonstop review, but it helps the people in the audience to either become aware of something they may have missed, or at least to say, oh, I am on top of what's going on in healthcare. It's been a really good, it's one of our signature contributions to healthcare.
On this 50th anniversary, where do you see the American Health Lawyers Association? What has it achieved? What are the challenges? And what are the opportunities?
Well, when we when the association began, again, as I mentioned earlier, it was a relatively small number of individuals who were involved. There really wasn't a lot of competition from either other organizations or law firms or state associations. So one of the things that AHLA is going to have to do is to continue to look at ways to be innovative, to keep a value-priced product available to its members, and to differentiate itself from now what are the many other opportunities that a healthcare lawyer has in order to obtain continuing legal education.
Well, along those lines, in this time of strident partisanship or political opposition, describe the value of having a nonpartisan medical association that can give you facts and truth.
What's really wonderful about the AHLA is that we have been able to make it an association where people with different ideas can come to the table and share them. It makes us accessible in many ways. A lot of what we do, healthcare is so heavily regulated. It's very important that healthcare lawyers are able to interact with their colleagues who are in the regulatory and enforcement side. And for those individuals to feel comfortable that they can express their views and their position and communicate with the lawyers who are involved in healthcare. So having a nonpartisan association allows us to always maintain that access, and in that way to serve our members because they do get an opportunity to interact and to hear firsthand what the regulatory and enforcement folks are saying and how they're interpreting the law. And sometimes we even get the opportunity to help influence them in a positive way by sharing our views in an environment or in a setting where they have an opportunity to hear what some of the problems are for people who are on the front lines who are actually having to try to comply with the laws or the regulations. And I think it benefits both sides.
On this 50th anniversary, what have been some of the key moments in the history of this association?
You know, there have been times when there have been kind of a sea change in healthcare, when we went to prospective payment, when DRGs became part of the regulatory scheme. A lot of times we thought that when this change comes along, it's going to dramatically change healthcare. Hospitals are going to close, or people will not be able to survive. But somehow we have always been able to adapt and figure out how to live with whatever the regulation is or whatever the change is. And I think the main thing that AHLA has done is be able to be responsive. I think one thing that I can kind of reach back and think about in my own experience, when the National Practitioner Data Bank was first enacted, I was at the AMA at the time, and we were just getting so many calls from around the country about how are physicians going to respond to this? How are hospitals going to be able to respond to this new concept? And at that time, I reached out to AHLA, and I suggested as a member that I felt that we ought to have a session at the annual meeting, because this was going to be such a hot topic. It was brand new. No one really knew how it was going to impact us on a day-to-day basis. And the association leadership took a chance and said, okay, we're convinced that this sounds like it's something we need to do for the members. We'll add a session on. We have the program all planned, so the only place that we can really add it is on Wednesday at the last session. And we have a system at AHLA where you can sign up for sessions that you think you're going to attend. And so people just started signing up, and first they had to get a larger room, and then they had to get a ballroom. But the thing about it is that responsiveness to recognizing that this is something, this is a topic that's important to the members and important to their clients. And we've also done that through webinars and calls and white papers, but that ability to be able to be nimble and to respond to what needs to be addressed. I think that AHLA is great because of the great people who've been involved and the willingness to be volunteers, and to really be concerned about other lawyers and about patients and about the public. And I think I'm just really fortunate that I've been able to be a part of the association.